What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week in a row of fights. While the legendary UFC 275 pay-per-view was taking place on Saturday night, I was not only watching that, but I had like 8 screens going doing tape study for this week's card already, beating some line movement. I was on the Pickin' Winners YouTube channel with my boy Keith and my boy Tom last night breaking down this card. Go over to their channel, give them a like, a sub, and watch that content. So in preparation for that, to talk to those guys who like to do the content early, I was already doing my tape study in the middle of last week and during the UFC 275 pay-per-view card. So I've been on a steady grind, tape study, stats, the whole thing, on a money-making mission. I'm going to start trying to get these videos out early in the week. It is Monday. I usually don't have these out until, Wednesday or so. I've been kind of lazy. But let's start beating line movement together, you guys, and we can start analyzing these fights earlier in the week and actually saving ourselves some money at the bookies by beating some of that key line movement, which I already see moving on this card this week. So a 14-fight offering, UFC Fight Night Austin, Kattar versus Emmett, featherweight fight in the main event, and a lot of key middleweight fights as well, relevant names. It should be a fun time. Let's get into it without further ado. I'm just going off of the Tapology bout order. I'm sure this will change, but first fight of the night is none other than Phil Hawes taking on Winn, 185-pound fight. This bout was supposed to take place once or twice, if memory serves me right. I think it was like last fall. Phil Hawes ended up taking on Chris Curtis instead and getting knocked out in round 1, I believe it was. So, I think Phil Hawes was closer to like a minus 300, minus 350 favorite over Winn at the time. I'm going to double check what he is now, because I think since his stock has fallen since he got knocked out, we might get a cheaper price on Phil Hawes, who is currently a minus 250 favorite, Winn plus 200 underdog price. I mean, the story here is pretty simple, right? I mean, you're going to see this price probably inflate on Phil Hawes because he is 6 foot tall, 33 years old, 77.5-inch reach. Winn is the same height as the featherweight in the main event, Josh Emmett. He's 5'6", 33 years old, the same age, only a 70-inch reach, always undersized, always a little portly, a little chubby guy for middleweight. One hell of a collegiate wrestler, though, a great wrestling background. Pure wrestling, this guy is probably better than Phil Hawes. I mean, he went further in his collegiate wrestling career than Phil Hawes did. He's had a successful, but, not really battle-tested MMA career so far. Phil Hawes definitely a little bit more battle-tested, but Phil Hawes also has limitations, too. The guy is a lot more first-rounder bust than his record suggests, 9 out of his 14 wins as a professional mixed martial artist are under 1.5 or, just round 1 or round 2 in general, but not even breaking the over 1.5 mark. And the fights that have been a little bit sketchy. Remember that Nasruddin Imavov fight that he had a couple years ago? He's been in some sketchy spots in round 3 when he gets gassed. If he can't get his opponents out of there early for Phil Hawes, he has a hell of a time, really surviving and being defensively sound in the later rounds of the fight. That big muscular frame, of course, comes with the trade-off of the cardio fading late. Now, he's gotten away with it so far in the later rounds because he's got the great wrestling over his opponents. He can hold them against the cage, maybe get them, take them down and really save himself, and he can rest and just cruise to a comfortable decision or not so comfortable decision. Some of these have been close, like the Imavov fight I mentioned. Now, Winn has that advantage where if he can survive early in this fight, rounds 1, rounds 2, and still survive early into round 3, he might be the guy who's able to negate the crutch that Phil Hawes has been using, which is that wrestling. Winn has got a nice low center of gravity at 5'6". I could see him being the trickier pure wrestler in this fight. The problem is I just think that the size will be too much early, and I think that Winn will probably succumb to the explosive striking of Phil Hawes in rounds 1 or rounds 2. I do see this as a Phil Hawes victory most of the time. Now, the issue is back in the fall when these guys were supposed to fight, you could get a bigger plus number on Winn and probably a bigger plus number on him to win by decision. Pretty much just taking the angle that you'd be fading the cardio of Phil Hawes. I don't think Phil Hawes is that trustworthy as the line indicates. I'm not that confident in parlaying him this week, but I do think he wins. I'd be interested in the props, either Phil Hawes by knockout early or Duran Winn by decision. If it's a juicy number, Duran Winn by decision, I'd be interested in just throwing a fraction of a unit on that, honestly. But the point of the matter is, I'm picking Phil Hawes. I just don't think he's parlayable this week. You're going to see a lot of people parlaying Phil Hawes because he's 6 inches taller, the longer reach, the better finishing potential. It seems like, but yeah, don't be fooled. If this escapes rounds 1 and 2, I'd be very worried with the Phil Hawes in my parlays going to round 3. So give me Phil Hawes. I'm going to call it a first or second round KO. Up next is another middleweight bout between Roman Dolidze and Kyle Daukaus. Kyle Daukaus is the minus 230 favorite. Plus 175 is the underdog price on Roman Dolidze. Roman Dolidze, 33, almost 34 years old. We haven't seen him in exactly a year since he had a cage-pushing 15-round domination over Laureano Staropoli. So not the best, not the most impressive win. He got back in the win column after losing that close decision to Trevin Giles before. So not the most active guy. He's going to be the older guy, and he's the guy with the more limited skill set, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, Roman Dolidze very physically intimidating for middleweight, but 6'2" or 6'3", 76-inch reach. But that physicality will be matched by Chris Daukaus. Well, not overly muscular like Roman Dolidze. He is 6'3". I think he will be the taller man, equal reach, and 29 years old. Kyle Daukaus has serviceable striking. It seems to be getting better, more comfortable. I don't think he'll be the more powerful striker here, but he'll be the more measured, more effective striker. I think he'll be able to do enough with the... he's got pretty good patience in the ring, pretty good awareness of where he is compared to his opponent. Roman Dolidze, his fight IQ is off at times, and he really does get too aggressive. Overextends on some combinations. Usually that last punch and his combination on the feet will overextend, get him out of position. And I think that's when Kyle Daukaus will change levels, take down Roman Dolidze when he's off balance. And, I think Kyle Daukaus can work, smothering top pressure. He's a very slick, slippery guy on the ground. And I think he can set up traps, even potentially get a submission here, over Roman Dolidze. I think Roman Dolidze, he does have good leg kicks. He does do some things well. His strategy of really pushing his opponents against the cage has been working well for him when he's the bigger guy in the cage. He won't be the bigger guy, per se, in this match. And I think Kyle Daukaus will have, seeing how predictable that strategy is from Dolidze, and he'll have the tools to circle off of the cage, dig underhooks, maybe even, end up reversing him against the cage and looking for a takedown of his own. So it's just this, it's a fight IQ difference. It's just a smoother ability to put together a well-rounded game plan that I see for Kyle Daukaus, who's improving, and he's been the more active guy. I think Roman Dolidze will have to have made drastic improvements, look like an entirely different a fighter, and he definitely has the ability to do that, but at 33 and turning 34 shortly, I don't think I'm going to bank on him to make those rapid improvements anymore. I'm going to take Kyle Daukaus, the guy we've seen more of, and the guy who's, seems to be the more improving fighter with more upside at middleweight. So give me Kyle Daukaus. I'm pretty confident in him to get the victory here. Moving along to the bantamweight division here, 135, we've got the veteran Eddie Wineland himself returning against Cody Stamann. Now, these guys are both struggling in the UFC as of late. Eddie Wineland has had a long career, a guy who's 37 years old, been there, done that in mixed martial arts in general, WEC, UFC, even challenging Renan Barão for the interim title at bantamweight almost 10 years ago now, 2013. So he's going to be the bigger man here by a bit, much bigger reach as most guys do against Cody Stamann, but these guys are struggling. Eddie Wineland has lost 4 of his last 5 fights in the UFC. Cody Stamann is on a 3-loss streak, so this is just not great. Eddie Wineland has not even been that active recently. Cody Stamann has been active, 32 years old, so the younger man by 5 years, which is a pretty big measurable at this weight class. 5'7", one of these muscle-bound wrestle boxers, collegiate wrestling background, fell in love with the power in his hands. Although he's not a potent finisher in the UFC, he's a former featherweight and, definitely carries that power and that strength into the grappling realm. Now, all of his losses in the UFC are pretty much forgivable at this point, starting with Aljamain Sterling he lost to back in 2018, before Aljamain Sterling was a title challenger or the champion. that loss aged pretty well. Song Yadong was en route to beating him. I think it ended up being a draw because Song Yadong lost a point in that fight. Jimmy Rivera, Merab Dvalishvili, and then most recently Said Nurmagomedov, the crafty Russian striker, ended up choking him out in round 1. So just a bad run of luck for Cody Stamann, but he has faced a murderer's row of opponent. This will represent a step down in competition. Not a step down in competition as far as the UFC experience, the veteran savviness of Eddie Wineland, but 37 years old for Eddie Wineland, a guy who's always historically struggled against grapplers, WEC and UFC. The same thing. He's able to get away with that with his speed back in the day when he was a younger guy. Now that he's older, his speed and reflexes are going to fade, and his durability and his chin have faded as well, getting knocked out by guys that are not even really known to be knockout artists. So I'm not talking about Sean O'Malley. I'm talking about guys like John Castaneda knocking him out. So, a lot of red flags, and especially the lack of activity for Eddie Wineland. He's always been generally low output, and I just don't see him finishing Cody Stamann. I think this is a gift for Cody to get a win and to hopefully make something of himself in this tough division. So Stamann's never been knocked out. He's 11-3 in decisions. And I like him to win a decision here against Eddie Wineland. Although it is possible he wins inside the distance. Eddie Wineland, I just see no way I can bet on him as an underdog here at this point in his career. He is a plus 350, plus 375 underdog. Cody Stamann, minus 450 at best. All the way up to like minus 500 and beyond at this point. So I've got a pretty good trust in Cody Stamann to get this done, but the price tag is pretty bonkers for a guy who has a 3-loss streak. So give me Cody Stamann to win a clear-cut decision here. Moving along to the featherweight division, 145-pound fight between Ricardo Ramos and Danny Chavez. And just like the fight we just spoke about with Stamann and Eddie Wineland, I think this represents a step down in competition for the younger guy here. Ricardo Ramos is the favorite, minus 300 favorite. Danny Chavez can be had for about plus 235 as an underdog. Not a bad underdog, in all honesty. I'm not going on that side. I'm taking Ricardo Ramos, the younger guy, 26 years old, 5'9", and a 72-inch reach. The bigger guy with a 5-inch reach advantage, inch of height. And just the more creative, faster striker. A lot of spinning attacks, spinning elbows, spinning back kicks. Really, if this stays a kickboxing range, this will be Ricardo Ramos all day long. And I think this will stay largely on the feet. Danny Chavez will have to, close the distance early and often, get him against the cage, make this dirty, but Ricardo Ramos is pretty good in the clinch too, pretty good at, circling off the cage. Both of these guys have decent takedown defense as well. I think Chavez will have to start employing some of that takedown offense, either off of the cage or, capitalize on a mistake that Ricardo Ramos makes with a spinning attack or an overextension on the feet of some kind. Because if this stays a kickboxing range, I think this favors the guy with the longer reach, who's faster and more light on his feet. Chavez is definitely one of those guys who's going to probably have the more power potentially. He's a more flat-footed counter striker, likes to plant that feet, pivot through the hips and put everything he has into short hooks and strikes like that. So, even though he does have that style, 12 out of his 16, fights have gone to decision for Chavez. And, Ricardo Ramos, I just see him being the guy who's going to land more often and just pick away at outpointing and winning the minutes in this fight. So I would see Ricardo Ramos, a guy who, even though I like the speed and I like the well-rounded techniques of Ricardo Ramos, I think Danny Chavez is the guy who definitely wears damage more, takes damage better. Not saying that Ricardo Ramos is that chinny or anything like that, but it just seems that Danny Chavez is able to, get hit and keep moving forward a little bit more. Good forward pressure. No, I don't have any cardio concerns for either guy in this fight. I think this will potentially go the distance. Now, kind of like the fight we just talked about too. Ricardo Ramos finally getting a step down in competition. Three of his 4 losses in total at a young age at 26 have come to guys who have a really high top side at 135. We're talking about the Tugugovs, the Lerone Murphys, the Said Nurmagomedovs. These are forgivable losses, and I think they're only going to make him better. He's got 9 UFC fights, so he's got the UFC experience advantage, even though he's almost the younger guy by 10 years, 26 versus 35. At featherweight, I think we're seeing the more finished product of Danny Chavez. whereas we're going to see an improving, and a guy who doesn't really need much improvement, in my opinion, to beat Danny Chavez, but we might see an improved version of him at 26 years old. So give me the bigger guy, the faster guy, the guy with the more well-rounded skill set, and especially in a fight that I see taking place primarily at kickboxing range, I'll take Ricardo Ramos all day. I agree with this line, at where it is, minus 300. Not a whole lot of extra value, but if you can look for Ricardo Ramos by decision, I might go that route. So give me Ricardo Ramos. I'm pretty confident in this prelim pick. Okay, moving on to the women's MMA portion of this fight card. Out of the 14 fights, 2 of these are female bouts. The first of which is Gloria de Paula taking on Maria Oliveira. Women's strawweight here. Maria Oliveira we saw last year against Tabitha Ricci in her only UFC fight. She lost to Tabitha Ricci, where it did look close on the numbers on paper. Tabitha Ricci definitely landed the more impactful strikes at range and managed to get a lot of takedowns, 5 takedowns in that fight. Muscling around the bigger girl in Maria Oliveira. Both women here, Gloria de Paula and Maria Oliveira, 5'5", both young, 25 for Maria, 27 for Gloria de Paula. A couple inches of reach in the favor of Maria Oliveira. The girl with the better record, 12-4 record for Oliveira, 6-4 record, abysmal record for Gloria de Paula. The favorite here by a big margin. Gloria de Paula is a minus 255 favorite over Maria Oliveira, who is a plus 205 underdog. I wouldn't let the record fool you. If you watch some of those fights, she only looks somewhat comfortable in the fights, striking wise, if her opponent is a complete bum with a horrible record. She lost to Marina Rodrigues, not an embarrassing loss on the Dana White Contender Series. Marina Rodrigues is very, very good, beats a lot of the women at this level, but just the difference. If you watch these 2 women fight, Gloria de Paula hits hard. She hits hard for 115, especially compared to the weak pitter-patter striking of Maria Oliveira. And Oliveira looks so gosh darn awkward when she strikes and moves around. Somewhat light on her feet, somewhat evasive, but not aggressive at all. Does not wear damage particularly well, gets backed up very easily, not very physically strong. I don't have a lot of good things to say about Maria Oliveira, and I know a lot of people, especially MMA predictors and handicappers, and it's not a bad strategy, I'll admit, at times. Low-level women's MMA, just flip a coin to get the better side of it. Well, if there's a big underdog here, 2 women are a pretty low level, just bet the dog every time. I don't hate that strategy. You probably end up plus money betting that way at this level, but if you watch the tape, if you do the analysis, I cannot find any reason to bet on Maria Oliveira. Decent takedown defense, but at the same time, out of 11 attempts, Maria Oliveira got taken down viciously 5 times by Tabitha Ricci. I think Gloria de Paula will be the much stronger woman here, be able to muscle her against the cage, get takedowns if she wants to, but Maria Oliveira is just not a good defensively sound striker at all, and her striking will earn her no respect, whereas Gloria de Paula actually hits pretty darn hard for a women's strawweight, and I think her strikes will do more in the eyes of the judges and also gain the respect of Maria Oliveira and make her very timid from the get-go. So I think the better striker, the stronger grappler here for Gloria de Paula, if she can avoid just like a Hail Mary submission from guard from Maria Oliveira, I think she should win this fight pretty comfortably. So give me Gloria de Paula to win, although it is sketchy to bet on somebody at minus 255 who has such an abysmal record at 6-4. But again, doing the tape study here, I don't see a lot to like and a lot of reasons to take the underdog shot. So give me Gloria de Paula to win. Which moves us right along to the second women's MMA bout of the night, which is at flyweight now, 125. Newcomer Natalia Silva making her debut in the UFC against Jasmine Jasudavicius. Jasmine Jasudavicius, pretty good record so far, 7-1, plus a 4-0 record as an amateur as well. So quite a good deal of experience so far. 33 years old, 5'7", 68-inch reach. She will be the bigger woman here by quite a bit. Natalia Silva is 25 years old, 5'4", and Natalia Silva has actually fought a lot of her bouts at 115. So lately she's moved up to 125. I think her last bout, which was over 2 years ago now, was at 125, I believe, and she's up to 125 again in this bout. Not sure why she's at 125. I think she could easily, if she looks the same as she did 2 years ago, she looks like she should be at 115. So, size advantage for Jasmine Jasudavicius. experience advantage for Jasmine Jasudavicius. On the money line, it's just like the fight before, where it was a minus 255 favorite for Jasmine Jasudavicius, plus 205 for Natalia Silva, is what I'm seeing. It looks like a little bit of money has come in on Jasmine. This line's gone back and forth a bit. The Brazilian newcomer fought for Jungle Fight. She even fought Marina Rodrigues back in the day, and that fight went as horribly as one might imagine it would. Natalia Silva, not a good striker at all. She makes a lot of big holes in her defense, gets hit, gets backed up pretty well. I mean, I know that's easy against Marina Rodrigues, but if you watch even when she fights bums that she's getting the victory over, she's getting hit, and she's, these women just don't look like they belong, some of them. The records of some of her win streak that she's on currently, 0-0, 2-2 opponent, 1-0 opponent, 1-1 opponent, 3-0 opponent, 10-5 opponent, So on the Brazilian regional scene, not a lot of top-tier competition. She didn't even make her way into the Dana White Contender Series to fight. She's just getting, a direct shot in the UFC off of this win streak, so more power to her. She does have a lot of submission victories on her record. It would lead you to believe that might be the path to victory here against Jasmine Jasudavicius. But, again, I'm not seeing a whole lot of high-level maneuvers here based on what I saw on the regional scene tape. I watched a good deal of it, and, so she last fought in December of 2019. It's been a long time. Now, you can make improvements at 23 years old, and now she's 25. You can make some drastic improvements. Again, that is all speculation. What I was saying about her grappling acumen is that she ends up making a lot of mistakes which allow her opponents to land directly on top of her and get top control. And it's not like she's pulling guard. It's like she's actually trying to muscle around her opponents in the clinch, maneuver them around the fence, and she ends up just like, either slipping or making some rookie mistake with her balance, and she ends up on bottom a lot of the time unintentionally. It's very scary, and in a powerful, takedown offense that Jasmine Jasudavicius has, I don't even think she'll have to, work that hard to get her on her back. So, a great top control from Jasmine, great ground and pound from Jasmine. She'll be able to outmuscle the smaller, undersized Natalia Silva. Again, a girl that has fought most of the time at 115. I just think that she's undersized. There's a long layoff effect here. Her best win condition is probably like her submission offense, but she can't really get the fight to the ground in her own terms, so I don't see how she's going to do that. And her striking just looks so poor. So unless she's made some drastic improvements in her 2 years off, which is a big possibility. Sometimes you see these women look completely different when they make their debut and they had a long layoff. So again, we're talking 23 years old in the past to now she's fighting at 25. Could have made some improvements for Natalia Silva, but nothing I can prove by watching the analysis. So again, another underdog. I would love to take these women's underdogs, but I have nothing to go off of to back up that claim, whereas I like what I see from Jasmine Jasudavicius, and I'm pretty confident in her to get this victory here. So I could even see her winning this inside the distance, in all honesty. Jasmine inside the distance is like plus 375. That's how poor the striking defense is that I saw from Natalia Silva back when she fought 2 years ago. So again, just the under in this fight is going to be pretty juiced at women's 125. The under is probably upwards of plus 200, plus 215. That could cover both sides too if you're seeing what I'm seeing. But either way, give me Jasmine Jasudavicius to win this fight. Okay, let's see what we have up next in Tapology. It has Court McGee versus Jeremiah Wells listed next. This is a confusing fight for a number of reasons. I think it's very, very close. When I did the tape study and analysis for this fight, when I picked a prediction for this fight, Court McGee was the technical underdog in this fight. He was at minus 105, minus 110, with Jeremiah Wells at minus 120, minus 125. Now that it's flipped, Jeremiah Wells is now the plus money side, plus 100 for Wells, and minus 120 for Court McGee. So a lot of Court McGee money coming in. I don't blame him. MMA gamblers, including myself, love this guy. He has a wealth of data to draw from. A lot of, just set trends. You know where his ceiling is. You know where his limitations are. And you know he's going to work for 3 rounds and not gas out. Very durable guy. Has only been KO'd by Santiago Ponzinibbio in his career. Never been submitted. So durable, can wrestle and strike serviceably for all 3 rounds. What's not to like about this guy? It's just he's 37 years old. He's going to eventually fade at some point. Just haven't really seen it yet, Never really reached, definitely past his prime. I'm not going to lie to you. Obviously, the better days are behind him, clearly. But he's managed to consistently be this gatekeeper that beats a certain level of opponent. And lately, it's been against, Claudio da Silva, Ramis Brahimaj, some of these pure BJJ guys who have trouble with the smothering top pressure. And when he doesn't give them room to play jiu-jitsu, he's able to grind out control time and effective striking from the top position. So Court McGee is good in that regard. Jeremiah Wells, even though he's only been in the UFC 2 fights now, an impressive fight against Warlley Alves and a bully beatdown performance against the bum that was Blood Diamond. 35 years old. So he's not, just because he's the new kid on the block in the UFC, don't be fooled into thinking he's that much younger than Court McGee. In fight years, maybe, but in actual years, he's 35 years old, only the 2 years younger than Court McGee. So 5'9" for Wells, slightly shorter, but the reach is about the same. Jeremiah Wells is that long, athletic frame where he's got good reach, can close the distance well, and that aids him in bum rushing guys early. He could do that against Court McGee. You never know when that chin is finally going to crack again for Court McGee. Jeremiah Wells looks about as durable as Court McGee is as well. The gas tank, we haven't really, seen it fade late. You would expect a guy as explosive early as Wells that he would fade late in fights. Might happen, but, yet to be seen. So I would take, this is a dead even fight for me. I would take whoever you get plus money. For me, when I capped it, and, I saw Court McGee as the underdog price. I picked Court McGee to win by decision. I think he can weather the early storm of Jeremiah Wells. He would have to turn the tides then in round 2 and round 3, capitalizing on a more tired opponent in round 3, and doing just enough on the striking and level change and getting some control time in round 2 as well to win a 2-1, 2 rounds to 1 decision is how I would see this fight playing out. But again, if you're getting plus money on Jeremiah Wells, I would have no problem with anybody taking that. I think this is wherever you get the better edge of the odds on, because this, to me, is a dead even fight from what we've seen from both guys so far. Wealth of experience for Court McGee. A decent amount of potential still at 35 and just fresh in the UFC. Coming off of a CFFC run for Jeremiah Wells where he looked impressive as well. So, whoever gives you the plus money. Currently, it's Jeremiah Wells. I don't hate anybody taking that stab. Court McGee, I'm taking personally to win by decision. Okay, it looks like this is leading the prelims. This is Adrian Yanez taking on Tony Kelley at 135. This is a fun fight for sure. Adrian Yanez and Tony Kelley. This might be like a sniper versus zombie type of matchup. Tony Kelley, relentless aggression, relentless forward pressure. Even taking strikes to land a couple of his own. That's really what his game plan is. He can be sloppy sometimes, but that's the type of fight he's going to have to make this. A sloppy one, not the crisp boxing that Adrian Yanez brings to the table. Yanez is one of the better boxers fundamentally, form-wise, movement-wise in the division. 15-3 record. A guy who's a very good finisher. He's finished fights in rounds 1, 2, and 3 equally, and now coming off of a close split decision win over Davey Grant. So, as long as he can keep his takedown defense and his movement as crisp as it has been, I think he'll have no trouble beating Tony Kelley. Adrian Yanez is a minus 350 favorite currently over the plus 270 underdog Tony Kelley. Yeah, it's about right, honestly. I think that this line might be a little bit wide, just because of the aggressive nature of Tony Kelley. It scares me. But, so not a lot of extra value. The value might actually fall on Tony Kelley. And what I mean by that, I should probably reiterate when I mean value on a fighter. I can pick Adrian Yanez to win this fight, think he wins it most of the time. There might still be value in betting Tony Kelley. So, for the newer sports gamblers, when you hear that, say the line is priced at minus 350, you'd be that price tag would imply it would equate to like a high 70% chance that Adrian Yanez wins this fight, right? So if they fought 10 times, you're saying almost 8 out of 10 times Yanez would come out the victor. If you saw the fight analysis and you thought that Tony Kelley would win this fight 5 out of 5 times at a 50% chance, then that would mean that the line is mispriced in your eyes. You'd see value on betting Tony Kelley. He's got more of a chance to win than the line indicates. That's what that means. Should probably do a better job of explaining some of these terms when they come up, but what are you going to do? We move forward. If Tony Kelley can cut off the cage, really make this a sloppy fight and not give Yanez room to work, he could win this fight. He could do just enough for 2 out of 3 rounds. If Yanez is a very poor night and Tony Kelley is a very good night, I could see this happening. But Yanez has very good takedown defense, and Tony Kelley's not one to really go for takedowns. He'll pressure forward and try to get Yanez's back against the cage. But Yanez is a very good counterpuncher, good hooks, good uppercuts, very good combos, and he'll leave the combos in the pocket, like cutting at angles, making his opponents miss. So he's really good at lateral movement, 100% takedown defense. The short hooks and the short uppercuts will be key in gaining the respect of Tony Kelley as this fight moves on. I really do think that Yanez has the potential to end this fight, but at the end of the day, I think Kelley is durable enough to survive for 3 rounds and just get outpointed. And the better number of striking and the better effective strikes will come from Yanez. 6.35 significant strikes landed per minute for Yanez. Absolutely ridiculous metric for any guy who's had more than a few handful of fights in the UFC. So the better ability to end the fight inside the distance and the better ability to win a decision on the scorecards. Give me Adrian Yanez. I think he's a pretty safe pick this week as well. But again, on a 14-fight card, we need some underdogs, and Tony Kelley would not be a bad pick. I don't hate anybody at this price tag, plus 270, maybe even climbing up to plus 300, maybe even juicier to win by decision for Tony Kelley. I wouldn't hate anybody taking the shot on him, but I am pretty keen on the younger guy at 28 years old, Yanez, winning this fight. Kicking off the main card, currently there are 6 fights in the main card. We'll see if something gets booted to the prelims as usual, but right now on the main card is listed Gregory Rodrigues, RoboCop, versus the Cuban Missile Crisis, Julian Marquez. Julian Marquez, a guy who's very inactive, a guy who's in 4 years has had 4 UFC fights. And then before that was a knockout to Phil Hawes in the Contender Series. So a very impressive, finisher is Julian Marquez. 100% of his wins are by finish. Very exciting guy, although largely inactive due to a long layoff. But, big guy for 185. He's 6'2", 72-inch reach, 32 years old. Rodrigues outsizes him on reach by 3 inches, 75-inch reach, 6'3", an inch taller. And, surprisingly, he looks like a Brazilian leather-faced Obama, but he's 30 years old and the younger guy here by 2 years. And the more active guy as well. So, minus 200 favorite for Rodrigues, plus 165 is the comeback underdog price on Julian Marquez. So, yeah, a finisher in his own right is RoboCop Rodrigues. 11 of 15 of his fights have ended in a finish. He got finished by Jordan Williams in kind of a fluke on the Contender Series a couple years ago. Since then, having great success in LFA, earning his contract in the UFC, having success over guys like Duško Todorovic, Junior Park, and, just recently he had a very close, controversial decision loss in a split to Armen Petrosyan, where he displayed his cardio, displayed his toughness, and, showed a lot of good qualities in himself as well. So 11-4 record for Rodrigues, 9-2 record for Marquez. Now, here's the deal. Marquez does not usually tend to do well in fights late. Like I said, he's usually a faster finisher. He's got a 100% finish rate. Both of the fights he has gone to decision and he's lost. Rodrigues is at least 2-2 in decisions. The most previous decision loss was a very, very close one at that. I'd say I'd give the striking advantage is power wise is about equal between these guys. As far as the crisper, more fundamentally sound strikes, I give that to Gregory Rodrigues. A clear path to victory for Rodrigues here is the takedowns. He usually lands between 2 and 3 takedowns per fight. Probably at least averaging 1 takedown, a round. So in his short career so far, but a very good guy on top. He's got very strong hips and good balance. He takes the back very, very quickly and swiftly, does Rodrigues. And Marquez has been taken down like 14 times in the UFC. I don't think he's even defended a single one. As far as takedown offense for Marquez, He went 0-1 against Maki Pitolo, 0-1 against Dichirico, and 0 out of 3 attempts for Darren Stewart. You notice all of his submission wins are, either an anaconda choke where he wraps it up without having to get the takedown, or he can jump guillotine against some guys who don't see it coming. So a very strong squeeze for Marquez, but a submission specialist such as Rodrigues, should not be falling victim to that unless he gasses out extremely late in the fight, which is a possibility. Now, my theory for this fight is the fact that Julian Marquez was not paired up against Rodrigues initially. He was initially paired up against Wellington Turman, a guy who's probably a much more even matchup for a guy who's a fast starter, a guy who's kind of like first round or bust, like Wellington Turman. They're probably trying to match these guys up, redeem one of them, Turman or Marquez, but Wellington Turman pulled out of this fight 8 weeks ago. In walks Gregory Rodrigues on not so short notice now, and I think at this point they're probably just like, all right, have at it, Rodrigues. This is a bounce back spot for you now. You can beat Marquez. You can prove your qualities, exploit the takedown, defense lack of a takedown defense is what I'm trying to say of Marquez. You could maybe exploit Marquez's gas tank in the later rounds of this fight, and you can bounce back after that controversial loss and rebuild your momentum, hop right back on the momentum and the hype that you had for Rodrigues, who I think has the more well-rounded skill set and the much higher ceiling in this division at 185. So I think they're trying to build up Rodrigues here in this semi-short notice spot here, but 8 weeks is more than enough time for a guy in Rodrigues who fights often and is ready to go at 30 years old. So I'm seeing the takedowns as a path to victory. I could even see a late finish for Rodrigues, a round 2 or round 3 finish for Rodrigues, either by ground and pound or by submission. So and he's 2-2. He's proven he can win decisions as well. He does slow a little bit. Rodrigues does start getting a little bit more defensively liable as the fight goes on, as we saw in the Junior Park fight. But I think Rodrigues is young enough, still at 30 years old, to make improvements. And he's got such a well-rounded game compared to Marquez, who's been inactive and a little first-rounder bust. So give me Rodrigues. I'm pretty confident in this pick, and I think that this is going to be a bounce-back spot for RoboCop. Up next is a very extremely entertaining fight between Damir Ismagulov versus Guram Kutateladze, returning at men's lightweight 155-pound bout here. We haven't seen Damir Ismagulov in about a year either, but it's been about 2 years for Guram Kutateladze. Kutateladze had one appearance in the UFC against Mateusz Gamrot, who was undefeated at the time. It was a battle between two newcomer prospects, and they fought to a very close split decision, which Guram Kutateladze came out the victor, just due to his activity on the ground, his eagerness to get up to his feet, and his effective striking. He's one of these Georgian guys, tall for 155, 5'11", 72-inch reach, very, very clean striker. He comes from out of the Sweden camp with Gustafsson and Hamzat Chimaev, so getting good work in with quality teammates, and he definitely is a very, very potent, powerful Muay Thai striker. Clean kicks that are just really snappy, come out of nowhere. Kicks to the body, kicks to the legs, and then he'll mix it up and go high as well, without telegraphing the kicks very much at all. And he looks like he's got decent cardio to back it up as well. Threatens submissions off of his back to stand the fight up if he gets taken down. Always eager to either strike with elbows from the bottom position or do anything he can to mount some offense while he's on his back. So this will be a big test for Damir Ismagulov, who's had big tests in the UFC already, fighting guys like Joel Alvarez and beating him, fighting guys like Thiago Moises and beating him, fighting guys like, most recently, Rafael Alves, who's a fast, powerful starter. Damaged Damir Ismagulov early. Ismagulov maintained composure, ended up beating Rafael Alves, who is known to gas out in fights. So lately he's been fighting a lot of guys who are not that serviceable in the striking, but his takedown defense and anti-grappling has been tested much. Damir Ismagulov is very good striking himself. Maybe the better fundamental boxing with the hands between the two guys here, but I think the overall well-rounded striking game will go in the favor of Guram Kutateladze, who is only 30 years old, 31 for Damir. So that means that the last time we saw Guram, he was about 28 years old. Still, even though he was out due to some injury, he probably has been making some steady improvements, so you'd have to guess. Still in the prime of his career for Gulam Kutateladze here. So Damir Ismagulov, very good on the feet. I think the clear path to victory is taking down Guram Kutateladze. The question is, can he hold him down? Now, Damir doesn't really have to do that with any sort of rush in the round, right? Like I said, he's a very defensively sound, very tough guy on an 18-fight win streak and serviceable striking with the hands. Now, Kutateladze, like I said, he's got flashy kicks, very good snappy kicks. That could be the entry that Damir needs to get him down to his back. Now the question is, can he hold and keep Guram down? I think he can. He's got very good smothering top pressure. Does Damir Ismagulov? A lot of good control time in his fights. Doesn't give his opponents much room to breathe. Very heavy chest on chest pressure. I think Guram is a decent dog play this week. There's just a lot of questions on. He looked so good the last time we saw him. Now, will he have made the improvements, or was that, kind of like, did he overachieve in that fight against Mateusz Gamrot? Was that a really, really good night for Guram, or was that just, part of, how he looks all the time? Now, his regional scene tape against some lesser opponents, in like Brave FC and other spots in Europe like that, he looks very, very good all the time, and he looked like he steadily improved on his way to the octagon. But a lot of question marks behind this guy. He is a good underdog pick this week. I am going to pick Damir Ismagulov, the favorite, the guy who I know has been battle-tested in the UFC against some good guys, like I mentioned, Thiago Moises, Joel Alvarez, Rafael Alves, a guy who's a potential finisher, but we haven't really seen it in the UFC so far. I could see him grinding out just enough on the numbers to win either a 2 rounds to 1 victory here, or just getting a clear-cut 30-27 victory. I see Damir extending his win streak out to 19 wins here. It's just the unknowns of a guy in his prime like Guram Kutateladze. We don't know what kind of improvements he may have made between 28 years old and 30 years old that he is now. So, for that, if you want to take the stab on Guram, I don't hate that too much at all. I'd probably look for Guram by decision if you went that route. But overall, I'm liking the overs in this fight. Overall, I'm liking Damir to win. And I'm pretty confident in him. I like that he can use his jab to keep Guram at bay. I like that he can counter the kicks with the takedown offense. And I really do like Damir as a decision pick here. Really fun clash of styles up next at middleweight between Joaquin Buckley taking on Albert Duraev. Albert Duraev, Russian wet blanket type of grappler, a good early submission threat, a lot of submissions on his record, only a second walk to the octagon outside of the Dana White Contender Series where he got a first-round submission to get his contract. He went to Fight Island at UFC 267 last October and had a pretty unimpressive performance against Roman Kopylov. Roman Kopylov, not that great. Albert Duraev looks very, very hittable on the feet, very defensively lacking, and his cardio was abysmal against Roman Kopylov. Just abysmal. He seems like this early submission or fade type of guy. I watched a lot of his stuff in M1. He definitely does have a great array of skills, does Albert Duraev. Mostly on the ground, good top control, an ability to advance positions and get the submissions he needs to, but lower level competition than Joaquin Buckley, even over there in Russia. And I can't get the Kopylov fight out of my mind. He lost. He won that fight, losing the third round. One judge had the audacity to give him the third round. He did not deserve it. He got outstruck, doubled up on significant strikes by Roman Kopylov, a guy who has such a negative striking differential, 0-2 in the UFC. Not a very impressive fighter to get dominated by in the later part of a fight. So 9 submission wins out of 14 wins for Albert Duraev. That's probably his most likely path to victory, is getting the submission on Buckley. Buckley has never been submitted, but he's never really been tested that way. He's been given, especially in his active UFC run since 2020, a lot of strikers, and of course, he gets that epic highlight reel KO of Impa Kasagane in round 2. So they give him another one in Jordan Wright, round 2 KO. Very exciting guy. He gets knocked out by Alessio Di Chirico. And then Antonio Hoyo, he's kind of like a generalist bum, but he was able to knock him out too in round 3. And Abdul Razak Al Hassan most recently was an interesting fight as a tune-up for this fight because he had to grapple, he had to work through fatigue, and he really was able to display Joaquin Buckley his good cardio. Not that he wasn't fading and tired in round 3, but he was able to work through that fatigue, which I love to see, winning a close decision there. So 28 years old for Joaquin Buckley, 5'9" or 5'10", slightly shorter guy in this matchup with a longer reach by a couple inches. Now, Albert Duraev, 33 years old, even though he's just getting into the UFC, been fighting for a long time, even losing to Ramazan Ameev by knockout like 10 years ago when these guys were in their early 20s. So, he's been finished by knockout in all 3 of his losses as Duraev, although, these were a long time ago. But, I just can't get that Kopylov fight out of my head. That UFC debut was so piss poor. It was not impressive at all. I think if Joaquin Buckley can survive and not get submitted in rounds 1 and 2, just the powerful physique of Buckley, his explosivity early. If Albert Duraev is forced to struggle and grapple with him, he will gas out by round 2, or 100% he'll gas out by round 3. So I could see Buckley as an underdog getting a victory later in the fight, winning inside the distance by knockout over a gassed Albert Duraev. That is an underdog pick for me. Again, not many underdogs in this card, but this is definitely one that I'm pretty confident in. Again, this is a UFC experience advantage. This is a youth advantage. This is a guy who can potentially make life difficult for a guy who gasses in the early part of a fight. If he can just be tough enough to survive and not get submitted early, let me take Buckley to win by late KO TKO. This should be a fun fight at welterweight. 170 bout between Kevin Holland making his second walk as a welterweight to Tim Means, the returning salty veteran. Tim Means is used to being the bigger guy, but he will not be. He'll be an inch shorter than Kevin Holland at 6'3". 29 years old for Kevin Holland, 9 years the younger than Tim Means at 38. 81-inch reach at welterweight for Kevin Holland. A 6-inch reach advantage over the 75-inch reach of Tim Means. Very interesting measurables here. Definitely the weight class that was meant for Kevin Holland all along. Although he was pretty impressive at middleweight before he got exposed, So Kevin Holland, we're starting to see these steep prices on him at welterweight now, minus 250 already at this point in the week over Tim Means, the plus 175 underdog. It's just hard to trust Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland was sold as this guy, and it doesn't take much to break into the top division at 185. That division's in shambles, but he fought 5 times in 2020, and he won 5 times. Then he did not win a fight in, excuse me, he did not win a fight at all in 2021, losing to Blonde Brunson by a smothering 5-round decision, losing to Marvin Vettori not that long after by decision once again, and then he tried to right that wrong with a fight against Kyle Daukaus. Ended up getting headbutted, knocked out, and then choked out. So that was a no contest. So struggled mightily in 2021 compared to 2020. And it was eye-opening, especially the poor fight IQ, just the lack of efforts at all to get off of his back was just maddening in 2021 if you had money on him. I was riding the Blonde Brunson hype train, so I was kind of loving it. And after he got exposed, did Kevin Holland, of course, I bet Vettori by decision as well. So it's been a good time if you can really zig and zag for and against Kevin Holland. He just came making his UFC debut at welterweight against Alex Oliveira, finishing him in round 2. Only the second man ever to finish Alex Oliveira. And something similar might happen against Tim Means. Tim Means is a guy who's notoriously tough, known for his toughness, only been knocked out 1 time by Nico Price. I think Kevin Holland might be the second guy to finish him, He's been in the UFC for 10 years, has Tim Means outside of 2 fights that he fought outside of the organization. Then he promptly got a contract and came right back. He's got an 8-5 decision record, so kind of sketchy there. 19 knockouts in his record over his long career of 32 wins. He's currently on a 3-fight win streak, a 3-fight decision streak. I don't see Tim Means finishing this fight. Kevin Holland is pretty defensively sound as far as submissions go. If Tim Means were to win this fight, it would be once again exposing the grappling deficiencies of Kevin Holland. You know, getting in really close to him against the cage, dragging him to the ground, and racking up control time and strikes from the top. I think that's a pretty low probability. I don't even see Tim Means as too much value as an underdog here. Honestly, I would probably pick him by decision if you were on that side, and still fading Kevin Holland, which that's fine. Kevin Holland makes pretty poor decisions in his fights, so any opportunity to fade Kevin Holland, I'm all for, but I really do like him in this fight. You know, he's got just huge measurables as far as his reach goes. The much cleaner, much more fundamentally sound striker as well. Tim Means has that forward aggressive style, but he's so defensively lacking. He can be countered. He was countered by Nicholas Dalby quite a bit when he marched forward. And if Nicholas Dalby can counter you on the numbers striking-wise, I think Kevin Holland can actually put you out. So I think Holland's long jab will keep Tim Means at bay. I think his power will earn the respect of Tim Means. And Tim Means' cardio is a little bit lacking these days, but he can work through that fatigue. I think Kevin Holland will be in shape to, either last 3 rounds to a decision or win inside the distance. So I see more paths to victory for Kevin Holland, a big youth advantage and a big size and measurables advantage. Give me Kevin Holland to win. I'm pretty confident in it as long as he doesn't do something stupid. And I think he can win inside the distance here. If Tim Means is too tough to be knocked out, if that's the narrative, I think Holland could even find a submission here. A guillotine, rear naked choke, something of the type. Tim Means has been submitted 5 times in his career as well. So give me Kevin Holland to win inside the distance. Okay, this is a fight that features 2 veterans, Donald Cerrone and Joe Lauzon, probably both making their last walk to the cage. Kind of a retirement party, a loser leaves town match, a senior citizens co-main event here, and a fight that was supposed to take place on the Oliveira versus Gaethje card about a month ago. So there was some sort of, I think there's some sort of weight cut issue or illness day of from Donald Cerrone, even though they both weighed in the day before. So the fight was scrapped, postponed until now. So what I'm doing now is just double checking the price, the money lines here, if the odds have changed at all. When I saw it was minus 165 for Donald Cerrone, plus 145 Lauzon. Okay, it's about stayed the same. That's fine. Let me double check and see where this was last time they were going to fight. Okay, last time they were going to fight, it opened at minus 300 for Cerrone, closed around minus 185. Right now we're looking at it opened at minus 170 Cerrone. Probably going to close around the same, close around minus. So you might be getting a cheaper price on Cerrone this time, which is odd, but maybe not. We'll see. Overall, that's kind of irrelevant. I went over this before in that video. I'm sticking with my same pick of Donald Cerrone here. I'm not going to let that narrative of like that pre-fight cancellation sway me here. Donald Cerrone's been the more active guy as of lately. We haven't seen Joe Lauzon since October of 2019, where he did get a victory, a first-round knockout stoppage over Jonathan Pierce in his hometown of Boston, 93-second KO. A good way to go about it. He has always been a fast starter, either with the strikes or with the submission offense. But the fact of the matter is, Joe Lauzon's been out of the game for a long time. Even though Donald Cerrone hasn't won a fight in a long, long time, he has still been more active, still training for things, still facing upper echelon level guys. Even Alex Morono, not that physically, not that appearance wise intimidating. He gets underrated a lot for it, does Morono. But Morono's a very serviceable striker. Stopped Cerrone early by strikes, just blitzed him early. And, this is just going to happen to a guy who's fighting at 155 and 170 at 39 years old and has had, over 52 fights, I believe it's been. So 36-16 record for Cerrone. This is just a guy who has been grappling in competition as well in December. Even though he hasn't been winning, he's still been getting ready for things, still staying in shape. So I'm going to take that as the edge for this very low confident pick. You can't be too confident in this. Even the time props, they aim towards it going under by the numbers, right? 36 of 54 fights for Cerrone have ended inside the distance. 35 of 43 for Joe Lauzon have ended inside the distance. But so this points to a finish This is why the bookies are going to favor this to go under 2.5, and fight does not go to decision. But I actually prefer this fight go over. I just have a gut feeling that this goes over, and this fight does see the judges' scorecards. I think both guys, knowing that they're going to have this be their last appearance, their last impression on people in the octagon, I think they might both be a little tentative. That's the tale of two fighters when you're Joe Lauzon coming back off of a long layoff. Either you start fast or you take it a little bit slow and ease back in. So I'm not sure which from Joe Lauzon. I know historically he starts fast, but this might be drug out into later waters, in which case I favor the striking, fundamental striking acumen of Donald Cerrone, the better striker, the better striking output, and the guy who's going to be stronger at 155. I just think that there's too many red flags for Joe Lauzon to pick him here. Getting KO'd by Clay Guida, even 3-4 years ago. Getting corner stopped by Chris Gutzmacher. Just a lot more red flags for Joe Lauzon. Even though Donald Cerrone is on a losing streak of all losing streaks here, I will still pick him to win. A very low confidence fight. I would even pick Donald Cerrone to win by decision here. But again, the time props are going to be wacky. They lead mathematically to an under. I'm going to call that this fight goes over just due to a visual, a gut feeling, and knowing that it's going to be both of these old men's last walk to the cage, most likely. So give me Donald Cerrone. Very, very small bit of confidence in him. Okay, we've made it to the main event of this fight night in Austin. It is Calvin Kattar taking on Josh Emmett. Men's 145 featherweight division. I think Calvin Kattar is number 4 in the division currently, with Josh Emmett riding a 4-fight win streak, and he's number 7 in the division. So, it's an important fight as far as the rankings go. Plus 195 underdog price for Josh Emmett, minus 240 the favorite Calvin Kattar. The bigger man, Calvin Kattar, both on reach and height, 5'11" to 5'6" for Josh Emmett. 2 inches of reach advantage for Kattar, and 3 years the younger is Calvin Kattar too. 37 years old at featherweight is Josh Emmett. Like I said, he's riding a 4-fight win streak as Emmett, 2 finishes, then followed by 2 decision wins. So, the guy's never been in a 5-round fight before. That's a bit of a red flag. Calvin Kattar never been knocked out, even though he took that beatdown of all beatdowns against Max Holloway a year and a half ago. He took a year off of that beatdown and then had a career best performance against Kutateladze. So we saw the yin and yang there in his career, the worst he's ever looked against an opponent. And again, Max Holloway, former champion. Nothing to hang your head about too much, but, his striking metrics are forever ruined because of that fight. He absorbed more than anybody else ever has without getting knocked out or knocked down. So, pretty impressive there, but more impressive to take a year off and then come back and look amazing against a kickboxer as good as Kutateladze. And how did Calvin Kattar do it? He just simply outstruck him, stood his ground, and actually mixed in some grappling as well, getting the takedowns. And, he got a couple on Kutateladze, some top control time, but mostly just stood his ground on the feet and, got the better of the striking output and the better of the counters. So I think he can do the same against Josh Emmett, the much smaller man. Josh Emmett is one of these guys who's got wrestling in his back pocket, but has fallen in love with his hands and his knockout power. So who can blame him for that? But he started off his career relentless takedowns against Scott Holtzman, like 8 takedowns in one fight. Now he really doesn't go for it all that often. Often getting the job done with his hands, or just able to strike at range, close the distance quickly, and work his way to a 3-round fight. Never been to a 4th or a 5th round in his career has Josh Emmett. Now, the tape study is kind of cool with these two guys because they have, in the same division, they have 3 common opponents. Dan Ige, they have Jeremy Stevens, and they have Ricardo Lamas that they both fought. So you can kind of compare and contrast what they're good at and what they're bad at against those opponents, watching their fights side by side. The only time that Josh Emmett has ever been finished was by Jeremy Stevens, who got knocked out by Calvin Kattar. I'm not playing MMA math here. I'm just pointing out some interesting things that I saw in these fights. Josh Emmett, even if he does try to mix things up, if he doesn't get the better of the striking in this, Calvin Kattar's takedown defense looks phenomenal. He defended 9 takedowns against Dan Ige. We just saw him mix it up against Giga Chikadze, as I mentioned, getting takedowns of his own. So he could probably find success doing that to mix things up at the ends of rounds, and especially as the fight goes late, if it does go late against Josh Emmett, who might gas out in rounds 4 and 5, might be susceptible to getting muscled around, getting taken down. If Calvin Kattar wants to mix it up that way, maybe he'll just stand at range and have the better of it, but it would probably behoove him to mix things up in this fight, since Josh Emmett, in my opinion, his only win condition is by finish here. I don't see him winning a 5-round fight. I think it's unlikely with his size and reach disadvantages. I think Calvin Kattar is just a better fundamental striker, smoother striking, better counter boxing, and probably the heavier hands. So a guy who basically has, an equal skill in striking and, even better durability proven so far from Calvin Kattar as well. I think he's the rightful minus 240 favorite here. Even his losses for Calvin Kattar don't look that bad, right? Renato Moicano, who beat him up on the strikes pretty badly years ago, that aged pretty well. Moicano's a beast. That was in 2018. He also lost to Zabit Magomed Sharipov. No shame there. And, of course, the beatdown of all beatdowns from Max Holloway. So the takedown defense is like a staggering 89%, as I mentioned, for Calvin Kattar. He's got the 5-round experience a couple times here, and he's got the higher level opponents that he's beaten and lost to on his record. So, and a much higher striking output than Josh Emmett. So I really just don't see any spots here where Josh Emmett is the better man. I think he would have to land something early and something powerful and be the first man to finish Calvin Kattar to win this fight. Either that or just look like a much better, improved version of himself with the wrestling mixed in with closing the distance and the striking. So to reinvent yourself that much, make that many improvements at 37 years old and a smaller man, I don't see it happening for Josh Emmett. I'm pretty confident in Calvin Kattar to get this done. The money line is fair in my opinion. Now, if you want to look at the overs, the over 4.5, over under 4.5 is where this opened up at. The bookies basically were privy to this. I thought maybe we get the over-unders opened up at 3.5. Just since these guys are notorious for being like power strikers at 145. But 48 of the 28 fights for Calvin Kattar end in decision. And he's got a 10-4 record in decisions. Now, 10 of 19 fights for Josh Emmett have ended in decision as well, with a 9-1 record. So, slightly better decision record for Josh Emmett. That's an advantage that you can put in the box of Josh Emmett. Technically, lower level opponents, but still a better decision record overall. My point is, they're finishing at about a 50% rate in their total careers professionally as mixed martial artists. Now, if you could pair those fights with the fight going to the decision, you can get anything better than implied probability of 50% of the fight going the distance. I might jump on that. So I'll have to double check and see what that is. But I'm looking at the overs in this fight, and if I could get anything better than anything better than minus 150 that this fight does go and see the judges' scorecards, I'd probably be prone to take that over 4.5. If I can find a book that opens up something, even around minus 200 going over 2.5 or over 3.5, I might take that as well. I'm pretty confident this sees the judges' scorecards, and I'm pretty confident that Calvin Kattar comes out the victor. Okay, there we have it. All 14 fights broken down for UFC Fight Night in Austin, which is Kattar versus Emmett. Out of 14 fights, these are actually really interesting matchups in my opinion. It's hard to beat the pay-per-view we just saw at UFC 275, but as far as matchmaking goes, very interesting card, all 14 fights. Out of 14 fights, I only have the Court McGee is no longer an underdog, and then I have also Joaquin Buckley. So I would like more underdogs. There are some fights like the Lauzon Cerrone, could go either way. The Kutateladze, Ismagulov could go either way, if depending on the improvement some of these fighters off of a layoff make. So let me know your guys' underdog picks if you have any in the comments. Leave a like, leave a subscribe. I'll be back in a day or two with my best bets and props video. I'm going to start trying to get these videos out early in the week, like Monday or Tuesday, the way I'm doing right now. That would really be great to help us all beat line movement, get my opinions out there. And I'll be on the MMA Engine channel on Thursday with my guy Lou Betya. So stay tuned for that, and I'll be back in a day or two with the best bets and props. Good luck in all your betting action. I will see you guys next time. Cheers.